Hello friends, hope you're having a great day so far. Thank you as always for joining me in our weekly devotional videos. We are working our way through Genesis 44 this week. A bit of a faster pace for this week and next, but we're trying to work our way through the end of the book by the end of next week. So hopefully we'll have finished Genesis out by the end of next week. Hopefully you're doing well in your reading, tracking along with us today. I'll be in Genesis 41. Now I want to trace the story of Joseph from the previous chapter that we discussed. Joseph's story begins with dreams. God reveals to him what is going to happen eventually through dreams. He receives visions, and we talked about listening to God's voice in all the things of our lives because God is speaking in ways that we don't expect, and so we need to be listening. Dreams become a key part of Joseph's story. And moving forward, Joseph's brothers sell him into slavery. He is taken to Egypt, but he is a man of integrity. He continues to do what is right, even becoming the head of the household for Potiphar. He's wrongly accused of sexual assault and then is imprisoned. But even it says that the jailer who was placed in charge of watching Joseph didn't really pay much attention to him because he knew he was a man of integrity. And so he knew that the Lord was with him in whatever he did. And so Joseph continues to be a man of integrity. He interprets the dreams of the cupbearer of the king and a baker of the king, helping them through their distress. And so God has given him the wisdom to interpret dreams. And eventually, even though he didn't anticipate reward, he is released from prison to interpret Pharaoh's dream. And so that's where we are, Genesis 41. The cupbearer for the king has been released from prison and for a time forgets about Joseph. Joseph, not anticipating any reward, wasn't really concerned with being freed. He was just concerned with doing what God revealed to him. And so now we arrive in Genesis 41. Pharaoh has had a vision in his dreams and wants someone to interpret it. All the magicians and all the advisors in the empire are not able to address the dreams. And so the cupbearer, finally remembering Joseph, sends for him. And so Joseph comes to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh explains his dreams to him. And this is his response. This is Genesis 41:16. Joseph says, "I cannot do it." Joseph replied to Pharaoh, "But God will give Pharaoh the answer he desires." Notice the difference between Joseph and his forefathers. That when it comes to faithfulness, yes, they had a reliance on God's promises, but it was usually a reliance on God in terms of specifically faithfulness to their family and fulfilling the covenant that he had made. But notice Joseph's reliance on God for doing what is right. He acknowledges that all wisdom and all insight, understanding comes from the Lord. And so when he is called to interpret dreams, he knows that his own giftings and abilities are given to him by the God who supplied them in the first place, and the God who will supply every answer. And so Joseph relies on the Lord for wisdom, but notice how that differs from his father and his grandfather and his great-grandfather. That Joseph has a reliance on the wisdom of God for his day-to-day living, not just on the promises that God will provide for him. Because he has been taken through some of the darkest places in his life and has seen that God is good in the midst of his trials, whether he is imprisoned or enslaved. Now he understands that God is good in the daily occurrences of our life, even when things are bad, and that wisdom truly comes from God. And this is echoed in the New Testament. James says, if anyone lacks wisdom, let him ask God. And so Joseph has this reliance on the Lord's leading, a reliance that ultimately is rewarded as God continues to be faithful to his covenant promises and brings to fruition the dreams that he gave to Joseph initially. But Joseph doesn't know for sure, but he trusts that God is continuing to supply everything in his life. And so ask yourself today, how are we relying on the wisdom of God? Relying on his guidance in everyday life so that we do the right thing, we live lives of integrity, even when we don't know the outcome. How are we trusting in God's provision daily? So, thank you for joining me. Hopefully, you'll work your way through chapter 44 by the end of the week. I will see you next time.